Good evening, YouTube. Andrew Sellers here. Welcome once again to Dragon's Dojo Gaming. And I am about to present you all my Nirvana Jheva deck profile. I almost said Mahar Nirvana, but it's an easy thing to confuse and mix up. So I ended up getting this deck the same day I played Premium at BCF Deluxe. And I got it from my good buddy Chase Knight from Twisted Nightmare Gaming. If you haven't already, please go watch his videos and like and subscribe to his channel, Twisted Nightmare Gaming, for more content. And please like and subscribe for more content from my channel as well, please. Anyways, on to the deck profile. So for the ride deck, I'm running the Empire Starter, Reno, Ryu, Nirvana Jheva lineup. The new Reno does the same thing that the original Reno does for Mahar Nirvana. And the new Ryu says when Nirvana Jheva is ridden on top of her, you get to check the top 7 cards of your deck for a prayer dragon from among them and add it to your hand. So instead of soul blasting for a regular Virena unit, you get to search the top 7 cards of your deck for a prayer dragon without a cost, which is almost guaranteed because most of the main deck has prayer dragons in it. I love that new Ryu. Oh, and before I go into the main deck, Nirvana Jheva's skill is once per turn, discard 1 card from your hand, choose up to 1 Trickstar and 1 Prayer Dragon from your drop zone in Superior column. And his other skill is when he attacks, you can counterblast 1, choose one of your X overdressed rear guards and restand it. And I'll get to what X overdressing does once I get to my grade 2s. Drag Veta as your over trigger, self-explanatory. 3 draw triggers. Between draws and fronts, I like draws a little better in this deck because I like to have extra cards in hand for this deck so that I can get to my prayer dragons faster. Next up, 8 critical triggers. 4 of the effect crit, 4 of the vanilla crits. I kind of like crits the best out of the triggers in this deck, but draws are really handy for getting your pieces faster too. Next up, 4 heal triggers. Eventually, I might consider taking 2 of these out for 2 of the effect heal triggers. One of the one that gets plus 15 if the opponent's attacking with a unit whose critical is higher than 1 from an effect that's not a trigger. And one of the trigger that gives my Vanguard that gives my shield plus 15 if I'm guarding against a unit whose attack power is higher than its original amount aside from triggers. Finally, for zeros, 4 Trickstar. He's the bread and butter of the deck, just like he is for Mahar Nirvana. Neither deck can operate without this card, honestly. He is the best card of your deck, and without him, the deck just can't function at all. Now for grade 1s. 3 copies of Flash Equipped Dragon. When this unit becomes original dressed, you draw 2 cards, then discard 1 from your hand. Next up, 4 copies of Stergalio. One of Stergalio's skills is once per turn, is when he's placed on rear guard from your hand while you have a Nirvana Vanguard, you can discard 1 card from your hand and add an overdress unit from your deck to your hand. And his other ability is when he is being used for an X overdress, you can counterblast 1, choose a Trick Star from your drop zone, and Superior Call it. So he's a damn good overdress searcher, and he's also a damn good unit you can use to Superior Call Trick to revive Trick Star with. 3 copies of the normal PGs with a copy of Sanctitude. Your standard Perfect Guard lineup for the deck at this point. And now for grade 2s. First up, 2 of the only overdress units I play in this deck currently. 2 copies of Nirvana Arcs. In my opinion, he's the only overdress unit you really need in this deck. And as many of you know, he's a pot of greed for any Trickstar deck he's in. And now for the Prayer Dragons. 2 copies of Break Equip Dragon. So when Break Equip becomes original dressed, you counterblast 1, soul charge 1, then choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So for those of you that don't know what original dressing is, you take a grade 1 and you take a grade 1 Prayer Dragon and a Trickstar. Well, any Prayer Dragon actually. Stack them together, and then X overdress. So you combine a Prayer Dragon with Trickstar and then place another Prayer Dragon on top of it. And that is what original dressing does in this deck. And in my opinion, it's an interesting combo. Fun for sure. 1 copy of Vis Virina. So, in order to go into hit... I forgot there's only certain units you do X overdress with. Oh well. And he's one of those units you can do it with. So you can X overdress with him. And his other skill is when it's placed on rear guard by X overdress, you choose a card from your drop zone with the X overdress ability, and one other than this guy, of course, and add it to your hand. And his other skill is he gets plus 5,000 power and plus 10,000 shield when in the X overdress state. So he's basically Virina. He's basically that 1 grade 2 Virina for this deck. Next up, 3 copies of Goro Virina. So he can go in the X overdress state just like Vis Virina. And his ability is when he's attacking while in the X overdress state, he gets plus 10,000 power. And when he attacks, your opponent has to guard with 2 or more units at the same time when guarding against this guy. So he's a Musashi for this deck. Now for grade 3s. 2 copies of Bar Virina. Thanks to his ability, you can X overdress with him. And when this guy attacks while in the X overdress state, you Soul Blast 2, choose 1 of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. And his other skill says when this unit in the X overdress state attacks a Vanguard, it gets plus 2,000 for each of your opponent's open rear guard circles till the end of the battle. It's a really good card in my opinion. Oh, and he has another skill that says once per turn, if you take a drive check away from your Vanguard, he gets a drive check for the turn. Next up, 2 copies of Bram Virena. So his ability is during your turn when he's in the X overdrive state, he gets plus 10,000 power. And he gets yet another plus 10,000 if he's attacking while your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or higher. And his other skill says when he attacks while in the X overdrive state, you Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, and choose one of your opponent's rear guard columns and retire it. And finally, for grade 3s, 3 copies of Nirvana Jheva. He's there for persona writing and reviving Trickstar and getting your restance. So that's it for my Nirvana Jheva deck. So if I have to give my overall opinion on how the deck performs in this format, it's a fun deck, but performance-wise, I personally don't think it's doing so hot right now. Which isn't the end of the world, because also in my opinion, when that counter charger comes out, this deck's gonna get a lot more consistent. It's definitely strong. It just counterblasts too much and is too rush heavy. And a rush heavy deck that uses all its counterblasts too much just isn't good in my opinion. But once that counter charger comes out, that deck's gonna get to go off a lot more. It's what the deck needs to become solid. Now, do I think it's gonna become meta when that counter charger comes out? Not necessarily, but when it does get its support, I definitely think it'll stand a chance. But until then, it's just being left in the dust. Anyways, thank you all for watching my content. I also appreciate those of you that are liking and subscribing to my videos. Once again, please like and subscribe for more content. And I hope you all have a good night and a blessed day tomorrow. See you later.